Your Majesty? It seems that the princess has come a bit earlier than expected. Will you be receiving her now, or... Now? All right, I will escort her and her retinue into the castle, Your Majesty. Please excuse me momentarily. Now presenting Her Highness Althea Diwa Reyes, Princess of the Balian Empire. Your Majesty, I will leave you to your privacy. Your Majesty, I appreciate you agreeing to see me even though I've arrived earlier than we agreed upon. Drachenfrei is quite beautiful this time of year. I am honored to be here. Polite introductions aside, did you receive the letters from my older sister, the Empress, discussing the reason for my visit? You did? Very good. That means we can skip directly to the point instead of re-explaining my reason for being here. Will we be having the proper meeting to discuss trade agreements tomorrow, or at a later date? You need not worry about me being tired, Your Majesty. I assure you that even though the travel from the Empire to Drachenfrei is extremely taxing, I was able to recuperate over the last couple of days. Besides, I frequently make myself useful to the Empire by traveling across Unterram to discuss political and economic issues with the various rulers, so I'm quite used to the traveling at this point. Now, back to my original question. Will we be having that meeting tomorrow or the day after? I want to make sure that I have all of my thoughts properly collected on the day of. Tomorrow? All right, that suits me just fine. I suppose a newly risen king must be busy at a time like this. If you have other engagements, then I can excuse myself. No. Ah, I see. It seems like this concilium of yours is hardly giving you a moment to breathe. I suppose I can be your excuse for a while, Your Majesty, but you'll be back into the fray once I leave. I can relate to your grievances on a much lower scale as a princessa, but needless to say that my position is far from the stress of that of a king. Yes, Your Majesty? Well, yes, I could technically leave the work I am doing up to an ambassador. However, I feel that going to these talks in person makes everything run smoother. For example, if there ends up being a dispute over something, I can confront it immediately, and not let the problem fester. In addition, some of the rulers just tend to find talking with me directly, instead of through an ambassador, a more favorable situation. Not that I think ill of any of my nation's ambassadors. They do very good work for us. I just cannot stand the thought of idly twiddling my thumbs within the Castilla with nothing to do other than tossing away marriage proposals. You have problems with those pesky letters as well. I swear they come from the most aggravating people. Yes, or it's their parents vouching for their sons and daughters. They try to be unique about it, but in the end, it's all the same flowery words over and over again. I cannot even begin to tell you how many times I've been compared to the sun. Though I am sure that you are in a much worse boat than me, Your Majesty. Well, as the one with the crown on your head, your council will surely be urging you to secure the future of the kingdom. Get a queen, have a child. We are both royals here. Regardless of the nation, those aspects remain the same. I suppose I'm simply lucky to only be the princessa, with a very unlikely claim to the throne as my older sister has already ascended to it with her husband. For that reason alone, I'm not as appealing to marry in comparison to someone like you. Politically, marrying you would be smart for a mass amount of people. Drachenfrei has been fairly, pardon the pun, cold to the majority of Unterram. Not completely closed off to the rest of the continent, but tries to remain uninvolved in many developments outside of your mountain ranges. A political marriage could open up the potential for ties between nations, access to variable resources such as the ore from the mines. The potential is endless. If not for politics, then for many it would be a rise in power. Nobles are always lusting for more of that. They want ties to royalty even if they cannot handle the weight of the crown on their head. That or they just go power hungry, and that is an entirely different problem. And finally, on top of all of that, you have the benefit of being born handsome. I'm sure some of the ladies would marry you for that fact alone. The political potential is only an added benefit. Oh, was that too far? Please excuse me. It wasn't my intention to get you flustered. I am told I can be fairly blunt. It is both a benefit and a detriment to my endeavors. I meant no disrespect, Your Majesty. I appreciate your light dismissal, but I still should apologize. Though, I thought you would realize your looks by now. I am guessing you try to steer clear of social events. Flattery is a universal concept, Your Majesty. Every member of royalty throughout Unterram that is conventionally attractive knows that they are from the flattery of the masses. And the most flattery occurs at gatherings such as balls, dances, moments of leisure. Though I could guess you're not the type for such things, seeing as you... Forgive the interruption, Your Majesty. Your Highness. But the ambassador for Kirja-on Matahari has arrived for an appointment with you regarding some border disputes. And so your duties continue on. There's no need to fret, Your Majesty. This was an unscheduled meeting. I'm simply happy enough to have been granted time with you before tomorrow. It is always intriguing to see what a ruler is like before conference. It allows me to gain some insight into who they are as a person, and how they might react in debate. Especially when they have a group of mewling nobles to appease, like you do. You're asking what I've discovered about you? Well, from what I can tell from this interaction, and the rumors that made its way to Balia, I believe you are an unconventional ruler. You turned your back on the life of luxury laid before you, and faced the battlefield until you were forced here. Every day you put on a steeled gaze, the one that pushes everyone away. But deep down inside, you're caring. After the death of your father, you implemented social reforms for the citizens of Drachenfrei, ignoring the nobles begging to maintain the status quo. Therefore, you're not the type of person to be intimidated into turning your back on the people that need you. It seems I took you by surprise, Your Majesty. I promise you, I never walk into a conference unknowledgeable. You should probably listen to what your concilium says in regards to me. Just make sure you eliminate all of the baseless rumors or the discreditation they lay upon my character simply for being a woman in politics. It's quite embarrassing when archaic old men still believe in preconceived notions that my sex predetermines my mental capacity. Hopefully, you'll be a different story, seeing as you are much younger than those gentlemen. With that, I will finally be taking my leave. It would tarnish your reputation to leave an ambassador waiting, even if it is for the sake of a princessa. I hope the rest of your day is not too taxing, Your Majesty, and I look forward to our conference tomorrow.